At first glance, you might think that this is just a pillar of stone. But no, what you're looking at here is the Messiah himself. And this here might seem like a couple of small rocks sitting on top of a big stack of rocks, but nope, this is Adam and Eve. And while this may certainly appear to be nothing more than a pile of white rocks, in actuality, we are watching the Jordan River flow downstream. And hey, those black rocks at the bottom of the river there, well, those are the sins of all humanity. Welcome to the Pathway Through the Bible in Joliet, Montana, one of the most wonderful collections of folk art I have ever seen in my entire life. An eccentric collection of abstract rock sculptures, each made to represent a different story from the Bible. I grew up less than an hour from this place and drove by its unassuming little sign many times in my life, but this is actually the first time that I have ever been inside. See, I'm not at all religious myself, so I always just kind of assumed that I wouldn't much enjoy an attraction based around the Bible, but after coming here myself, I can tell you that the pathway is absolutely jaw-dropping no matter who you are. Mostly because the creator of the pathway devoted such an incredible amount of time and energy into its creation. Adolf Land, originally from Germany, moved to Joliet in 1954 and soon after began work on the pathway, continuing its construction all the way up through 1980. Countless newspaper articles were written about Adolf and the pathway during that time, and among their pages you can find some truly fascinating little secrets. Like, for example, the fact that Land chose this particular piece of petrified algae to represent Eve because he could imagine the waves and creases in the rock as strands of hair flowing down the face of the first woman. And that is just the start, because imagination is certainly a major theme of the pathway. Sometimes it takes quite a lot of it to visualize what Land was going for. Like over here, for example, we have the universe. A seemingly random collection of fossils and stone and petrified wood strewn about to represent the emergence of the celestial objects from the dark disarray of the universe. Sometimes Land would also just kind of add things to the Bible that avid readers might not remember. Like over here, we have the Wise Men's Tower, which some of you might not remember from the Bible. But the guidebook accounts for that by explaining that because the wise men were astronomers, and astronomers typically view the stars from towers, the wise men therefore should have themselves a tower. Apparently, there also used to be a working telescope up at the top of the tower too, so that you could view the stars just like the wise men. And hey, by the way, in case you were wondering, the pathway is 100% free to visit today, just like it's always been since it was first constructed almost 70 years ago. After Adolf Land passed away in 1983, his wife Helen took over caring for the property before eventually handing it off to new ownership that have since agreed to maintain the attraction. And hey, real quick, while we're talking about her, Helen Land certainly left her own imprint on the pathway too. Like, I read that she cleaned all of the bricks used in the sculptures by hand, and she built this mosaic here meant to represent the feeding of the 5,000, and any time that she went to town, her husband would always be asking that she bring home a fresh bag of cement. But hey, what do you say we quit jumping around the property so much and instead we slow down for a minute and take a closer look at a few of the sculptures? Because Adolf Land actually intended his visitors to walk a specific path through the stonework, so why don't we go ahead and roughly follow the sequence that he laid out for us. Beginning with a series of columns that Land salvaged from a bank in nearby Red Lodge, Montana. I guess the bank was scheduled to be demolished, and Land just kind of spotted these columns and somehow ended up bringing them home for his project. The columns are supposed to represent Solomon's porch at the Second Great Temple in Jerusalem. I think this particular exhibit really exemplifies what makes this place so amazing to walk through. Like, according to what I've read, Land would sometimes work backwards, where he would just build something or start working on an addition, and then only later he would decide what Bible story his new creation was supposed to represent. So it would not surprise me at all if that is how these columns ended up here. Like, maybe Land just liked the columns and he wanted to figure out how he could connect them to the Bible, and so now they are Solomon's porch. Moving along, we pass by the universe again, and the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve, Enoch, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, before reaching one of the most interesting structures on the entire pathway, Noah's Ark and Mount Ararat. Land always avoided explicit descriptions of what he was going for with his sculptures. He just kind of liked to let you know generally what Bible story he was trying to portray, and then from there it was sort of up to you to fill in the blanks. So a lot of people have hypothesized that these upright rocks along the arch here are supposed to be all the animals walking down on a rainbow from the top of the mountain, although Land himself never actually confirmed that, as best as I can tell. This sculpture also hides one of the biggest secrets in the entire pathway. If you look real close at one side of the mountain, then you just might notice this small little rock with an X shape on it built into the side. This tiny rock meant everything to Adolf Land. He found it buried underground while he was digging out his basement back during the 50s, and to him, this little stone was an incredibly important piece of archaeological evidence. This is an etching of St. Andrew's Cross, proof that someone from China or Russia must have once lived here in Joliet, Montana. But then again, maybe it's actually evidence that the Israelites themselves somehow made it to Montana thousands of years ago. See, Land kind of seemed to change his mind a couple of times on what the exact significance of this stone was. Moving along, we find Lot's wife turned to salt, and then the 10 Commandments, and Mary's well, where the Mother Mary first learned that she was to become the mother of the Messiah. This is one of the more intricately composed pieces along the pathway. Like, there's even some crystals from Nebraska lining the top of the well. Land's friends and family loved to bring him back rocks from distant parts of the world that he could later incorporate into his work. Like, later on, we'll see some much more extravagant examples. Real quick, it's also worth noting that Land built every single sculpture on this property with nothing more than simple hand tools. He did not trust machinery, and he refused to use any kind of power tools, so every single one of the rocks that you're going to see today was moved and placed the old-fashioned way. Next up is maybe my personal favorite sculpture, Daniel in the lion's den, complete with real deer bones placed at the feet of the lions. There's another little secret hidden in this piece too. The pile of rocks at the top of the scene here is supposed to represent the king peeking down into the lion's den, checking to see if Daniel has survived his encounter with the ferocious beasts. We already discussed the Wise Men's Tower, but what we haven't mentioned yet is this staircase, another one of Land's historical salvage jobs. This set of metal stairs was actually taken from a steamship called the Josephine that used to run up and down the nearby Yellowstone River in the 19th century. And now, it's here, hidden in the pathway. Never in a million years would I ever know that this was here if I hadn't read about it beforehand. It just looks like any other set of stairs. Just one more little secret hidden away off the side of the road. Next, we pass Joseph's Granary, the PAX or Peace on Earth mosaic, and a fountain homage to John the Baptist. And then we return to the sculpture that opened up the video. This giant column of rock is Jesus Christ, and the smaller upright stones are a crowd of followers listening to him speak. Out here, lining the perimeter of the crowd, are a few big stones, each representing one of the apostles. I think this is another one of the most impressive features of the pathway. Just the sheer density of rock people surrounding the Messiah here is really, really incredible. Moving along, we have Jesus healing the blind. And then we come to the crucifixion scene, another sculpture that leaves quite a bit up to the interpretation of the viewer. These crosses are all made of stone from the Garden of the Gods down in Colorado. Around the crosses are a series of footprints representing Roman soldiers standing guard. And then down here, you can see some more footprints depicting an audience watching the crucifixion. I also read that Land tried to make this wall here look like a skull because Jesus was crucified on Skull Hill, and in person, I think I can see what he was going for, although I'm not sure how well it comes across on camera with that bush in the way. And now, finally, we come to the true masterpiece of the pathway. A great mountain of stone showcasing a whole multitude of Bible stories. We already discussed the Jordan River, but we can also see the Mount of Temptation. Alpha and Omega. And Lazarus arising from the dead. I especially like this one because Lazarus is literally just a big rock standing on its end. It's just another beautiful example of how abstract this place could get. I gotta say though, I really cannot stress enough just how stunning this whole mountain is in person. It just feels alive with features. Not a single inch of it feels empty. The coolest part though, is it's even got a couple of caves on it. The first of which is the tomb of Jesus Christ, reportedly built to be the exact same size as the actual tomb on the other side of the world. The ceiling in this tomb in particular is especially fantastic. There's quite a few little interesting details in this tomb too, like that mosaic that we talked about earlier is actually surrounded by rocks brought over from the real Jordan River. And this little window in the corner here is for airing out the tomb when it's time to switch bodies. And this notch in the door frame is so that you can wipe your feet before entering the tomb. And this big old rock at the entrance of the tomb weighs over half a ton and required 4 people working with crowbars in order to move. But hey, as cool as this tomb is, the other cave in the mountain is somehow even more impressive. This is the stable where Jesus was born. The stonework in this room is absolutely incredible. Land reportedly used old telephone poles to hold up the roof while he was setting the concrete to fortify the stable. And this straw over in the manger here is from Italy, another one of the gifts brought to Land by friends and family. And that is Pathway Through the Bible. So hey, if you ever find yourself driving through the country roads of Carbon County, Montana, I hope you might consider taking a stop at one of America's most unique roadside attractions. Thank you for watching.